We've gotten to the latter part of this season, but this defense is starting to play a little bit better. They're starting to move around and get some turnovers. Also, you look at Josh Allen and what he's been able to do with Stephon Diggs, but now Cole Beasley is becoming a huge factor as well. And I think as we get down the stretch and the Miami Dolphins have a couple of tough games down the road, it'll go down to week 17. It'll be week 17 in Buffalo with a Buffalo Bills team that believes they should win, that believes they should win the AFC East, and I believe they get it done that week, therefore taking the division.
Yeah, that is their last game of the season. You could easily see that one wind up being the one that gets flexed to nighttime because it could decide the AFC East. Dominique, you are next. Who do you like to win the AFC East?
I got to go with the Dolphins because their defense, unlike the Bills, is not coming together. Their defense is together. Their defense is real, and they have been all season. And I'm not sure why do fools fall in love with Josh Allen, because he keeps making turnovers and making bad decisions to harken back to the Frankie Lyman reference. But I love what they've built down there in Miami. They are the team that's going to win this division this year, and I know they have a tougher schedule going forward, but I trust the better team. I think they are the better team. Tua seems to be getting better every week. I think he is probably going to be the better quarterback in the long run. I think they pull it out this year, maybe a year ahead of schedule. Given the fact that they have a ton of draft capital going forward, I like this team to take over this division in the near future.
Here we are basically a year, practically to the day, removed from the terrible injury that Tua suffered. Here he is with a chance to lead a team to a division. With that thought in mind, David Pollack, who do you like?
I like the Bills. I'm with RC. I don't think they're. I think Miami's defense is better. But when you talk about Josh Allen and when you talk about Tua, when it comes down to the end of the season, and Miami Dolphins, by the way, have to go from Miami, Florida, to Buffalo, New York. It's going to be a lot of fun, by the way. Those players are going to be super excited about that, by the way. But the trump card for me, by the way, is 6'5", 240, and the play calling with Josh Allen. Like, he can run the football 10, 15 times a game, and I think it gives this offense. By the way, let's go back to this offseason, Stephon Diggs. I mean, giving up a 1, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, all that draft capital when you see DeAndre Hopkins get traded for some trail mix and David Johnson. I mean, it's unbelievable that you've got that kind of trade this offseason. You gave up all this, and by the way, it made this team perfect because Cole Beasley can be in the slot. John Brown can be a guy, not the guy. They're explosive. They can run the football with Josh Allen. I think the Bills, their offense, and listen, Neek, I know I don't trust Josh Allen completely yet, but I think he can make enough plays with that team around him.
Miami won the last game of the year in New England last year. Just a reminder. I don't think they're scared of the cold.
That's fair. By the way, Hembo, get me, what is the temperature, the average temperature at 8 p.m. on January 3rd in Orchard Park, New York? Because that could easily be where that game winds up getting played. Graziano, last but not least, who do you like in the division?
I'm taking Miami because I picked them about a month ago when it was a contrary opinion, so I feel like I have to stick with it. Look, their next 3 games are against the Broncos, Jets, and Bengals. It's a team that's already on a roll and can even extend that roll even further. Right now, I mean, momentum is with them. They have a ways to go. They have to climb over Buffalo. Buffalo's going to have all the tiebreakers. Buffalo's already 4-0 in the division, already beat Miami once, so it's going to be difficult. But I'm with Dominique. I like the way this defense has already come together. I think these are 2 very well-coached teams. I like the young quarterback in Miami who's keeping it a little more careful.
And look, if the Dolphins do wind up edging out the division, that Hail Mary at the end of the game in Arizona could wind up being the one play that calls specialists for a second opinion as he seeks to determine the full scope of his chest injuries. Tests performed on Monday revealed that Brees has multiple fractured ribs on both sides of his chest and suffered a collapsed lung. And so, my insider Dan Graziano is here. When we hear second opinion, what does that make us think, and what are we expecting?
Trying to get more opinions on this so they can make a plan for treatment and recovery and get some sense of what a realistic timetable is for a return. As we mentioned yesterday, you have to imagine he'll miss at least 2 or 3 weeks with this. Is significant enough. They haven't put him on injured reserve yet. If you go on injured reserve this year, you have to miss at least 3 games. So if they get these second opinions and it says, look, there's absolutely no chance, no hope of that, then they can put him on IR, get the roster spot back. But that's the most optimistic time frame. The hope, obviously, for Drew Brees is that he's healthy in time for the playoffs. We'll have a little better sense once he gets that information back from those doctors.
Again, 3 weeks just seems so incredibly optimistic that it almost feels unrealistic.
It does. And the only thing is, been told by people who've, doctors and people who've done this stuff, it really varies patient to patient. Obviously, it sounds like it's very significant, the number of fractures that Ed is reporting, the collapsed lung. I don't think anybody should get their hopes up for a quick return.
Okay, so let me bring the crew back in here. For those of you just joining us, we in our first hour when we talked about this story, we talked about what we think the Saints can be in the time that there is where they do not have Breeze. Let's take a moment on what this opportunity might be for Jameis Winston. This is a guy who not so long ago, Ryan Clark, was the #1 pick in the draft. He's a guy who this past offseason nobody wanted. This is an opportunity for him to audition potentially to be Drew Brees' replacement, because we expect this to be Brees' final year. And if not, he's auditioning for the rest of the league. What do you want to see, need to see from Jameis?
First of all, we need to see Jameis Winston protect the ball. We need to see Jameis value the fact that not turning the ball over gives his team the best chance to win. Also, we need to see some of the good Jameis Winston stuff, though, right? We need to see some of the explosiveness down the field. We need to see some of the improv in the pocket. Even though he's not necessarily a runner, Jameis Winston is athletic enough to create second plays. And these are things we don't necessarily see from the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees. But more than anything, we need to see Jameis Winston grow. We need to see Jameis Winston lead. We need to see Jameis Winston be inserted into the New Orleans Saints and have them win games they're supposed to win. And if he does that, I believe he can set himself up to be the New Orleans Saints quarterback of the future. And the way it looks playing that position, that will be the best thing for Jameis Winston's career.
How do you see it, Nate?
Yeah, I think Ryan's right, but it's just about decision-making for him. I think that we see the high end of Jameis Winston. I can put together a highlight tape of Jameis Winston plays that is almost as good as anybody in the league. That's not the problem. I think that coaches don't have a problem imagining Jameis Winston being great. The problem is they have a hard time imagining him not also just make boneheaded throws and turnovers in bad situations. If he can put together a few weeks of not doing that, there are many teams that will convince themselves, they find it easy to convince themselves that they can get the best out of Jameis. And I think the team that most would want to do that is the Saints. We know that Drew Brees at 41, coming off of 2 years where he's missed significant time with injuries. We know that his days seem to be numbered. This might be his last season. If Sean Payton can make the best of his Jameis Winston situation, I think he ends up being the quarterback of the future down there in New Orleans, and that'll be a perfect situation for him. But first, he's got to stop throwing it to the other team.
Yeah, and that was a problem going all the way back, David, even to his college days when he, was the best player in the whole country and the #1 pick in the draft. Turnovers were an issue for him even then. What do you need to see from him to prove that he should be someone's starting quarterback week 1 of next year?
If he can't do it with Sean Payton, I think everybody else around the league is not biting that hook. I mean, you think about it. Sean Payton's, he's the best play caller, one of the top 3 play callers in all of the NFL. So I think knowing your answers, knowing if I see this, boom, I go to this. If I see this, I go to this. And listen, I can live with the 50-50 balls that are intercepted. I can live with that. I can't live with the stupid interceptions, the big mistakes. So listen, this is hundreds of millions of dollars on the line for Jameis Winston. And listen, if he can't do it with Sean Payton, I don't think anybody around the league is going to think they can take Jameis Winston and go make him the franchise quarterback and go win big games.
Yeah, I agree. I said it at the time when he decided to go there.